Poni, and good morning. Today, the task that I was given is very simple indeed, because I'm introducing the topic of this European Life project that is focused on soil in vineyards, and then the two next speakers will illustrate it in details. The project is about soil management, and more than that as well. Soil management is a technique that changes everything in a radical way, and I'm referring to the vegetal and productive balance, its impact on the surrounding environment, and it also has economic consequences. You all know that there are basically 4 techniques that we have in our vineyards. That is, these are the ones that you can see that include mulching, and grassing and weeding and plowing. So what we've tried to do in this LIFE project is what follows. We've tried to attribute more importance to soil as the factor that can enable us or that can contribute to obtain good results. It was somehow underestimated in the past. We started from analyzing the possible soil threats that you can see here in a list. Some of them, such as erosion or the loss of organic substances, are very frequent, whereas the others are less frequent, at least for us. But we started from this type of approach. These images are a self-telling serious erosion in this image. Here again, you can see on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, in terms of soil compaction, you can see that some problems may arise. And today we have some data that show that soil management can considerably impact those features. Here there is a chart of apparent density with an index which is linked to the type of compaction, and on the right hand side you can see another interesting data about water infiltration into the soil, which improves considerably when you actually have a green mature carried out in spring around April. So you can actually impact on the soil by trying to find optimal solutions. Biomass is another interesting data. You can see that biomass is released in situ. It can also be lifted in the case of permanent grassing, less so for the other situation, but you can see that when it comes to plowing and weeding, this problem of biomass disappears. Our knowledge is too limited with regard to the physiological impact of soil management on the behavior of the vine. For instance, when you talk about grassing. Grassing is a term that is not particularly telling in itself, because it can be spontaneous, artificial, permanent. At the bottom, on the right-hand side, you can see this wonderful grassing result. However, we do not want to have a golf field in our vineyards. We want grass that grow very quickly in spring, but that dry up then in autumn. So growth dynamics are also very important. And another aspect for which we cannot find any solution, at least not yet, is that there is no optimal management technique. There is not a technique that only features advantages and no disadvantages. Here you can see a very simple classification. On the left-hand side, you can see the competition parameter when it comes to competing with the vine. It is obvious that permanent grassing and total grassing very competing, whereas weeding is less so. But then you can see what is the role played by those techniques when it comes to erosion, and the situation is absolutely the opposite. So what shall we choose? It all depends upon the type of information that we have about the link between greening, or rather grassing techniques and vine growth. One example, one type of information that is lacking is this one. Who of us can say with a certain degree of certainty, when I carry out grass covering, what is the interaction with the vine? Where do roots end up, the roots of the vine and the roots of the grass? Here in the on the left-hand side, you can see total weeding, 1 meter depth. And in the case of total weeding, roots tend to be very superficial because you do not go beyond this. On the right-hand side, the same trial has been carried out. You can see that weeding is still carried out, but then you use Dactyris glomerata in other parts, and you can see that that is cat grass, and you can see that roots go deeper, and it tends to avoid colonizing the same volume of soil where grass is present. So from a certain point of view, this is an advantage, because if we could actually gear and harnessed the way in which the vine roots colonize the soil through grass covering that is targeted towards this aim, that would be an advantage. So we have many advantages when we know more or less where the roots of our plants are located, and very often we don't know, we don't have that piece of information. Some other data that are absolutely necessary. In a previous slide, I showed the competitive effect of grass covering towards vines in terms of water and nutrients. So let's focus on water. This is a table where you can see types of grasses on the left. In some cases, they are positive, that is, they're not too competitive, but in light blue, there are some that are considered to be actually infestant. And you can see what its respiration consumption is, and Festuca rubra consumes very little of it. But if you have malva or cirsium, you can see that water consumption increases by 5 times or even more. So we should focus on this topic. That is, when we carry out grass covering and we want grass to grow, sometimes we tend to accept what comes in terms of consequences, but we have something that we can control. I mean, we can do something more to control this phenomenon. Now, another slide before drawing some conclusions with some further slides. There is another aspect for which we do not have enough information. That is the role that can be played by grass covering In terms of long-term manuring effect, here you can see a correlation between the quantity of leaf nitrogen that we determine on the vine leaf that is a determinant when it comes to the available nitrogen for grounded manure, grass manure. Well, here you can see N15, and we can estimate that 25% of available nitrogen comes from the source. We need more data here because oftentimes we do not have enough quantitative data. I still have very few minutes. The last point, there are some techniques that are potentially very interesting. Here you can see a situation in which the grass that is cut is left, is piled below the vines in order to have mulching. This is a very sustainable approach. However, we should need what are the conditions and under which conditions this is possible, and under which conditions this is not possible. The LIFE project has been going on for 3 years. It will be completed by the end of the year. It is composed of 5 partners: Orta Venidea, Ervet, Ente di Gestione per i Parchi e la Biodiversità Emilia Occidentale. So it is a local national project. That is all demo companies have been chosen in this area. Parma, Piacenza, and the surrounding areas where the Ducato parks are located. What are the goals? Some of them have already been hinted at. We thought that we should focus on analyzing the soil and trying to understand how we can use it better. In order to do this, we need to have decision-making tools so that farmers can actually know if there are limiting factors in the soil, if they can be remedied, and then also to assess whether remediation action was effective. Our partner Orta is in charge of a decision-making tool that we are releasing, and there is a very important part, another very important part of the project, that is the one that is aimed at increasing environmental sustainability. And I would add to it that social sustainability should also be taken into consideration. Could we have ecosystem services that are linked to virtuous management of soil? That is, those farmers that are willing to follow environmentally friendly techniques, can this farmer receive some sort of recognition for having adopted such techniques? That this will be the topic of Professor Basso's presentation. Here you can see the demo and demo farms, and in each of them, in each demo farm, we've always created 2 plots. The plot that represents what farmers normally do, and another plot in which the most promising soil management techniques are tested. Here you can see many images taken in the various farms. I would like to thank them all. The viticultures, well, the farmers here are very willing to share their images that can help us all. I would like to show this last slide, where you can see that on the left-hand side you see the 9 to 10 DI.PRO.VE.S farms. In yellow, you can see the most daunting soil threats. In many cases, you have erosion-related problems, in some other drought problems, in some other organic matter is the problem. Whereas on the right-hand side, you can see a list of possible solutions. And the tool can be very helpful for it. I've really kept to the time that was allotted to me. Thank you.